Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the whole full elect. Just wanted to do a news and prophecy video on these two articles I found on Blacklisted News. So let's just get into it. The first one says, "Got milk. China building herd of mutant GMO super cows." Says, as a maturing technocracy, China is steeped in genetic modification of everything that concerns food supply. GMO milk at scale could negatively affect health of huge numbers of people. Right, so creating these GMO cows or whatever they're doing to these animals, just as we read through it, just to produce more milk, is going to have a negative effect. Not only on those animals, but on everybody, the people who also drink and consume that milk as well. But, for the sake of just, producing more mass production of milk, food, and everything, you're going to cause life to deteriorate here on Earth, just for the sake of people consuming more, because this is a consumer nation. People consume a lot of food. Hold on one second. So let's read that again. It says GMO milk at scale could negatively affect health of huge numbers of people. Technocrats invent because they are compelled, not because there is an informed demand to do so. China claims to have cloned mutant super cows that can pump out nearly twice as much milk. Right, and that's not supposed to be so. Because, the Lord created everything. When you read in the book of Genesis, let's go to that real quick. That says it was everything was tawab. Everything was supposed to be according to the Most High's way. Right, cattle had its kind. Right. So this is Genesis 1:24. It says, "And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good." So it was made after its kind, not after some GMO enhanced super cow. See, it says, going back, China claims to have cloned mutant super cows that can pump out nearly twice as much milk. That's not supposed to be so. The Lord created, not just people, but the animals as well, to pump out a certain amount of milk. You're not supposed to try and create mutant super cows just to pump out more milk, just for you to get more money, because people are consumers. Because like it said earlier in the article, that's going to have a negative effect upon the people, man. Because you don't know what that adverse effect could have, not only upon the animals, but also upon the people that drink and consume the milk. Because now you're going to have multiple problems on your hand. You're going to have effects that are going to happen to these cows that you may not be able to deal with. Then on top of that, you got to deal with the people who drink the milk. But you see, this is the things that never come into these people's minds. You see, people see these scientists, these mad scientists, that they create these type of things, these super cows, or they genetically modify things, and think that, oh, this is going to be what takes the world to the next step. But no, they never think within their minds to say, hey, what's the bad outcome that could come of this? Because this is all about just producing more and more food for people, just for people to be more and more consumers. It says, continuing, it says Beijing boasts they created 3 cows which can annually produce 18 tons of milk, which is 7,500 liters or 37,000 pints. So the 3 super cows alone could produce 300 tons of milk a year. and that yield of milk production is more than double the average cow in the UK. With it, I'm sorry, with is around. Okay, that sounds weird. With is around 8,000 liters or 14,000 pints. Right, and this is why. Let's go to Genesis. That's 4. This is why when we get this here, why they have to do these type of things, because this goes all the way back to Cain. Now this is Genesis 4, and this deals with the story of Cain and Abel. And basically, when you go through it, Cain brought a wicked sacrifice before the Lord, and he wasn't accepted. But Abel he gave a righteous sacrifice, and he was accepted. And because of Cain's jealousy over Abel, he slew his brother. Cain slew his brother Abel, and then the Lord found out about it, and the Lord cursed Cain and kicked him out. So let's just start verse 11. This is Genesis chapter 4, verse 11. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which had opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. Right, so this was a curse that was put upon Cain, right? But because, and if you can receive this, Esau Edom is Cain in the reincarnation. So now that Esau Edom has come back in this time period, the reason why the earth cannot yield its strength, which is produce crops the way it's supposed to be, and that also just goes down. That also trickles down to the animals as well, because there's a curse that was put upon the earth because the Lord cursed Cain, and Cain right now in the reincarnation is Esau Edom, and he is the one that's in power right now. And Esau Edom is the so-called white man. That is their biblical nationality. They are not so-called white people. That's why we say so-called white people. But their biblical nationality is Esau Edom, the Edomites of the Bible that are not done away with. They are still here, according to prophecy. But that also goes forth for the other nations as well, because they're following in the same type of spirit under Esau. Now, again, this doesn't apply to them, but just saying, because the earth is cursed under Cain right now, who is Esau Edom, the earth is not yielding unto him. The earth is not yielding its strength unto him. Therefore, it's not yielding its strength unto these other nations as well. That's why they have to produce these super cows to get that extra, milk out. But this is having a negative effect, or this will have a negative effect, as I said a little bit earlier here. Where was it? Where was it? Oh, it says GMO milk at scale could negatively affect health of huge numbers of people, right? But they're only consumed and thinking about how can we produce more and more and more. It says Chinese state media reports the breeding program, the Stranglehold, if I'm saying that correctly. I believe that says Stranglehold, of having to import cows from overseas. The calves were cloned from cows at different farms that have high milk production. They also selected cows that have high fertility. All right, so they want to be able to produce these cows at a high rate. With China dreaming of creating a herd of 1,000 of these super cows. Now, I remember Elder Yashawamba also mentioning in a video how they also, made GMO salmon. And I remember looking that up as well, how the salmon was also, the GMO salmon was killing out the other salmon and things like that. And that's also in the scriptures, how you're not supposed to mix seed and things like that. Not just the seed of your crops, but also of your animals. I believe it's Deuteronomy 22:9. No, not 20. Right, here we go. Leviticus 19:19. Ye shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with diverse kinds. Right? Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed. Neither shall the garments of... Okay, right. So it says, ye shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with diverse kinds. Right. And what you're doing, what they're doing is having the cattle mixed with diverse kinds of these different GMO cattle. And you don't know what that adverse effect that could have. There's a reason why the Lord said not to do it. So it says, going back, it says Jin Yaping, the scientist lead project, said the I'm gonna guess the word there is supposed to be team is supposed to be there. Said the team took tissues from cows' ears to reincarnate them. They transplanted the cloned embryos into 120 cows, according to Northwest A&F University. Some 42% were successfully impregnated, and 17.5% remained fertile for 200 days. So, they're mixing between different animals because they're using this GMO cows and regular cows to produce super cows, like they said. And that's going to have an adverse effect because that's the Lord said you're not supposed to mingle different kinds. Now, you could say, oh, well, it's cows and cows. It's not two different kinds. But in this case, it is, because this is not the Lord's creation. This super cow is not what the Lord created. That's a creation of them. So again, that is mixing with diverse kinds. You're supposed to leave the animals alone and let them breed amongst each other, man. You're not supposed to try and create some GMO super cow and then have that breed up with the other animals. You don't know what type of effect that could have on the animal's body, that could have an effect on the animal's milk, that's going to affect the people. Says the 3 cloned cowbirds were announced this week. Jin said using cloning technology alone won't have any economic meaning, and the combination of tapping reproductive technology and using low productive cows as surrogates allowed us to reproduce 20 more offspring compared with just cloning for a given period of time. The scientists said that they will be saving the tissue from super cows to clone more of them and produce their dream herd. Right. And just like in that article that I read about the GMO salmon, those salmon started killing up the regular salmon and started overtaking it. Matter of fact, hold on, let me see if I can find that same precept in this book. Hold on, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, Baba Kasha. Let me see what it says in this book really quickly. I'm gonna hold this just in case. Let's continue. Once again to the other article. So yeah, that's what is happening right there with those cows. To produce more cows, they're creating super cows, and they're gonna let them impregnate the cows to birth more super cows and have this super cow dream thing that they have. And again, you don't know what type of effect that's going to have by mixing 2 different cows. Yeah, to the ignorant, you could sit there and say, well, it's both cows. I don't see what's the problem. But again, it's a GMO cow. It's a cow that they genetically modified and things like that, or what they would say enhanced, and is mixing it with other cows. That's going to have an adverse effect. That's not going to have a proper effect. The Lord created everything, like the brother Bakwar always mentions, a circle of life. From Lion King, when you hear about that, the circle of life, the Lord created everything to, harmonize with one another. And when you bring in these GMO animals, they're going to have these adverse effects. That's why eating GMO foods have an adverse effect upon your body. You're not supposed to eat fruits and certain things like that without seeds. The seeds are important because the seeds are pretty much what reproduce the next batch of fruits that's going to come. So you have to have the seeds within the fruit. There's a reason why there are seeds in the fruit, in the vegetables. So you can plant those and have it keep getting your crops. The Lord is not an idiot. There's a reason why he created it to be so. Then also on top of that, like I'll use this example for watermelons. Watermelons help you, like if it's a hot day, it's good to eat watermelon to cool your body down. But also about the watermelon seeds, you can eat them and they'll flush out toxins and things like that in your body. So watermelon seeds are also good to eat as well. There is a reason why the seeds are in the fruits and vegetables. They have their properties and they also have their uses as well, even down to eating the seeds. Okay, because you can use those watermelon seeds, obviously, to plant them in the earth and create more watermelons, obviously. But the Lord is so beautiful in his design that the way he even gave benefits of eating seeds, that if you eat them, they take toxins out of your body. So the Lord knows what he's doing, but here it is, they come with their GMO things to take away the seeds. Like, see, you don't have to worry about seeds, but no, those seeds have a benefit to them. Matter of fact, let me get a precept. Right, this is Psalm 82 and 5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course, right? So because they keep messing with the animals, and they want to mess with humans as well, merge man and technology together, the foundations of the earth are out of course. Why? Because they're not following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Bible. You know, this country says that it's a God-fearing country, God bless America, but yet it doesn't follow any of the law, statutes, commandments, or any of the things that you're supposed to do in the Bible. They don't follow it. If you would follow it, you know, things would work out very smoothly because the Lord already designed the blueprint. He already designed the plan. You just follow it and, you know, you'll do well. Matter of fact, he told that to Joshua. Right. This is Joshua 1 and 7. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. So if you want to have good success with the animals, if you want to have good success with health, you have to follow the ways of the Heavenly Father. You have to follow what's written within the Bible. But here they don't produce that. Here they don't follow those things. They have produced their own way, and they have produced this pseudo way of living that's not healthy to anybody. And therefore the foundations of the earth are out of course now. That's why people are all sick, because you're creating GMO animals, you're creating fake foods for people to eat that's having a negative effect upon people's body. That's why people aren't healthy. People may think that they're healthy, but they're not really healthy here in America. And even if you have a fit body, doesn't mean, you know, you have a six-pack abs, you know, and all that, you know, muscles, cuts, and everything. You can still be a very sick person on the inside. You know, we're not living according to the way that the Heavenly Father truly wants us to live, and how we're supposed to eat, and how we're supposed to live as well. Living is not just, you know, dealing with your manner, your walk, but also, you know, like I was saying, the things that you eat, the things that you put within your body. Again, the Heavenly Father has a use for all these things, but because the foundations of the earth are out of course, you know, things are not going the way that they're supposed to go. So this article here deals with scientists use CRISPR to put genes from alligators into catfish. See, this is, I don't know what's wrong with these people. But it says transgenic, which trans meaning change, and genic is having to go in genes. So they're changing the genes of the animals, which, again, just go back to the law. You're not supposed to do that. Again, Leviticus 19 and 19, ye shall keep my statutes, thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with diverse kinds. Because you don't know, like, you're not supposed to mix seeds, man. Right, see? In the NLT, you must obey all my decrees. Do not mate two different kinds of animals. You taking the genes of one and putting it into another is mating two types of animals. The Lord didn't have it to be so. Again, let's go back to Deuteronomy. I'm sorry, not Deuteronomy, Genesis. Is this it? Yeah. Genesis chapter 1, verse 24. And God said, let the earth bring forth a living creature after his kind. After his kind. So what? There's this, let's just use the cows, and then what? The cows breeded and brought forth their kind, more cows. Sheep breeded and brought forth sheep. Goat breeded and brought forth sheep. They breeded there with their own and brought forth their own species. Not mixing a cow and a sheep, not mixing a goat and a goat and a cow, or a goat and a snake. No, everything brought its own kind, its own species into her and multiplied, right? And the beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. But it's not so in this time period, because they want to splice things, if I'm not mistaken, that's the word, splice it, and mix two different animals together. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. So creeping upon the earth, insects. You know, I don't know how centipedes are brought forth, but I'm going to guess daddy centipede and mommy centipede get together and they produce baby centipedes. And there you go. Okay. It brings forth its own kind. There is no mixing between animals, mixing between insects. It even goes down to man. Man and man are not supposed to be together. Woman and woman are not supposed to be together. You don't get life from that. You get life from a man and a woman being together, and they produce seed. The man ejaculates into the woman, what? His sperm into the woman, and then the child is incubated within her stomach for 9 months, and then after 9 months, the child comes out. That is how you bring life into the earth. You do not bring life through a man, but through their pseudoscience, they're going to try to do these things. But they shall fail, because the Lord is going to stop them from doing these things, because you're corrupting the way of the way of life upon the earth, which goes back to Psalm 82. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. Darkness meaning ignorance, not knowing what's the proper way to do things, right? All the foundation of the earth are out of course, not just with the animals, but also with the people. Because the same way they're trying to mix two different creatures together, they're also promoting that androgynous thing with, you know, a man and a man could be together, a woman and a woman could be together. And that's not supposed to be so. You don't, like I was saying, you don't get life from that. Life doesn't come from that. But with their pseudoscience, they're going to try and push that a man and a man could be together, and you could still have a family, and life could still come from that. Woman and woman could be together, and you could still have life from that. They promote that in the shows and the movies. If you watch Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, the chick, America Chavez, she had 2 mothers. So they're pushing these things upon the people's mind in the movies and the TV shows, and that, you know, goes into your subconscious where you slowly begin to accept it, and then they make rules, laws, regulations to force the people to accept it, saying if you have a problem with anything, they're going to label you some type of homophobic person. But if you phobia just means you have a fear of something, which, if you don't agree with something, it doesn't mean that you have a phobia of it. You just don't agree with it. You just understand that that's not the correct course of life. That's it. But when they put these words and have phobia at the end, they're trying to say, oh, he's phobic and things like that. He or she is phobic of these things, but you're not phobic of them. You don't have a fear of it. You just understand, according to the Bible, that this way of life, this thing that you're promoting in the earth, this way of living, is not correct according to the Bible. It's not about having a fear or a phobia of something. It's just not the right thing to do. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. So going back to this article, I'm not going to read this whole article, but let's just go back. It says transgenic, like I was saying earlier, trans meaning change, and genic having to deal with the gene. Gene editing makes a genetic sequence from one species and inserting it into another. The United Nations is cataloging the DNA of all species on Earth for this very reason, and mix and match given enough time. So it's not just, what was this? It's not just this, this alligator and catfish. They want to do with all these animals, which you're not supposed to do that, as we got in the law. It says technocrats/transhumanist scientists will cause a meltdown of life on Earth from genetic corruption, which is correct. There's a reason why the Lord said you're not supposed to do these things. But they say these scientists, for the name of science, you know, for advancing and bettering the world, We're going to find these, scientific breakthroughs and make the world a better place, but you're not making the world a better place. You're actually corrupting the earth and making it worse. Matter of fact, this is Isaiah chapter 24, verse 4. It says, the earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish, right? And haughty having to do with a high mind, proud. So even if you're proud here living in this world, you're still languishing. Why? Because your body is not getting the proper nutrients, the proper the things that it needs to be able to, sustain itself to live. They spray chemtrails in the air. That has you're breathing the chemtrails in the air that they spray in the sky. That's having a negative effect upon your body. The GMO foods that you probably eat, who knows what they do to the meat and things like that, whatever they may spray on, your vegetables and things like that. We're most likely not eating actual rice, actual potatoes and things like that. So even though people are proud in this earth, thinking that they have a high mind and thinking that they're so great, and they glorify themselves, on social media and things like that, and these people think that they're so special and wonderful, but like it says, the earth mourneth and fadeth away. Why? Because they're sucking the resources, sucking this earth dry, to the point where this earth cannot produce what it's supposed to produce, because also they don't follow the land Sabbath, where the land Sabbath is, you're supposed to give the earth 7 years of rest. Even the earth needs a rest, just like, you have the Sabbath for the man. You need, 6 days you work, but on the seventh day you take your rest. So even the earth needs a rest where it can just, rest and recuperate, and then it'll be able to produce again. But if you keep just sucking in, pardon my language, but if you keep just sucking dry the earth over and over, year after year after year, that's going to have a bad effect upon the earth and also the cattle, which is also going to affect us as well, because we eat the cattle, the chicken, the lawful animals, of course. That's also going to have an effect on us. So the earth is also mourning and fading away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. So even though they may be high-minded and think that there's something in this world, their bodies are also languishing and fading away. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Why? Because, let's continue reading. Because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Right. Again, mixing the seeds. Right. Let's stay upon that. Mixing seeds. Creating these genetic GMO cows, mixing an alligator and what was that from earlier? Mixing, it says scientists use CRISPR to put genes from an alligator into a catfish. Right. It's like all this is defiling the inhabitants of the earth, therefore, because you don't know what type of, what if that makes the catfish go psychopath and start killing up a whole bunch of fish, the wildlife in the sea. See, they don't think about these things, and people don't think about that as well. Going back to Psalms 82. Matter of fact, let me go back to that real quick. Right, Psalm 82 and 5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. Right, because they're in ignorance, they don't think about the consequences of doing these things. They're just thinking of what they think is progressive, or that's going to progress the earth forward. But going back to Isaiah chapter 24, says verse 5, it says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. And again, going back to dealing with the seeds and trying to mix seeds, trying to mix, breed different animals, and also even with people. Again, using the example of man and man, woman and woman, and things of that nature. Also dealing with the transformers, guys say that code word. If you know what I mean by transformers, and having transformers deal with other transformers, and all these things are an abomination. So it's not just the animals, the seeds, but even the people. They're defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Who are the inhabitants thereof? Is the beginning with the top banking families, the elites. They push this type of wickedness upon in the earth, to mix seeds, to have the mixing cattle and things like that, to have man and man, woman and woman, which is not lawful, which is not according to the Bible. And they know these things, but they don't do them. going back to Cain, because Cain knew what he was supposed to do and he didn't do it. That's why I said earlier, if you can receive it, Esau, Edom is Cain in the reincarnation, because the same way Cain knew the sacrifice that he was supposed to bring, because he brought the fruit of the ground, which he was supposed to bring the flesh sacrifice. He brought the fruit, and the Lord rejected his offering. He knew what was the right way, because he was told the right sacrifice to bring, but he wasn't accepted because he brought a sacrifice that he wanted to bring. And Abel was accepted because he did the right thing. He brought the sacrifice that he was supposed to, which is the same thing like us in this time. We're doing to the best of our abilities by the Spirit that was given upon us by the Heavenly Father through his Son to produce the right sacrifice that he likes. But as for Cain, which is Esau, Edom coming back in the reincarnation, he's producing a sacrifice that the Lord doesn't like, a sacrifice that he wants to give to the Lord and say, accept it. But the same thing's going to happen where he's going to be rejected and we're going to be accepted. Lord's willing, we are part of that elect. So continuing in verse 6, it says, therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. Right. So let's go back to this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It says, millions of fish are farmed in the U.S. every year, but many of them die from infections. I wonder why they die from infections. In theory, genetically engineering fish with genes that protect them from disease could reduce waste and help limit the environmental impact of fish farming. If you would just follow the ways of the Bible, like, this would all be so simple, but of course they don't. A team of scientists have attempted to do just that by inserting an alligator gene into the genomes of catfish. Now, let's use our heads here. Okay, let's read this paragraph again, right? It says millions of fish are farmed in the U.S. every year, but many of them die from infections. I wonder why. Because you're polluting the land. You're putting things in the sea and things of that nature. The plastic that's in the sea, the oil that spills in the ocean is messing with the animals, the wildlife, the sea life, right? Salakia, give me one sec. Okay. Every time I do a video. Salakia about that. Let's continue on. So like I was saying, the oil spills, that messes with the sea life. The plastic in the water, that messes with the sea life as well, right? So let's continue. In theory, genetically engineering fish with genes that protect them from diseases could reduce waste and help limit the environmental impact of fish farming. So they think in their mind, if they genetically, splice between an alligator and a catfish, that is going to prevent animals from, getting bacteria or getting diseases in the sea. If you would stop spilling oil in the sea, stop putting plastic in the sea, and stop messing with the earth, don't you think that would be a better course instead of genetically splicing two animals that don't belong together? But this is the walking in darkness. This is the walking, in ignorance that is written about in Psalms 82. Also being defiled, like we brought up earlier in Isaiah 24, being defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, broken the everlasting covenant. But this is their mindset. They think that, okay, if we splice two different animals together or take the genes from one and put it in the other, that could prevent creating super animals, just like we read in the other article, super cows, that could protect the wildlife. No, if you would just change up what you're doing and stop, again, just using the example of, well, that's another thing I don't think anybody's ever talked about. Who knows what type of effect chemtrails could also have upon the wildlife, because that is in the air and it goes down even to the sea because they spray it all over. So if you would stop doing those things, you wouldn't have to splice two different genes of animals. It's very simple. It's not a hard concept, but they make it difficult. So it says, says a team of scientists have attempted to do just that by inserting an alligator gene into the genomes of catfish. It says Americans go through a lot of catfish, which catfish is not lawful. It doesn't have fins nor a scale. Well, it may have fins, but it doesn't have scale. It says in 2021, catfish farms in the U.S. produced, well, let me say this correctly. For you Israelites, you're not supposed to eat catfish. You so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians, you're not supposed to eat catfish. That's unlawful to the Bible. It doesn't. When the Bible it says that you're supposed to eat creatures from the sea, the Lord, the Heavenly Father, made certain animals from the sea lawful for you to eat, and catfish is not one of them. Shark is not one of them. Yes, they may have fins, but they don't have scales. Scales are used to protect from certain bacteria and things like that that are in the ocean, to protect it from getting inside, from the skin of the animal absorbing it. Sharks and catfish, their bodies, their skin absorbs whatever's in the sea because they don't have fins to protect it, to be like that shield blocker to prevent it from coming in their body. So therefore, their body absorbs everything. The same way, like if you use the example of your the hair in your nose, the hair in your nose has one of the uses is to protect certain things from going up in there, to block it. So that way, if anything tries to fly up in your nose, you have the reaction when you start swiping at your face and you go in there and pick your nose or whatever is in there. You could easily pick it out. Why? Because you have hair in there to prevent. So therefore, right. So like with the fish, you're supposed to eat animals with fins and scales. Catfish farms in the U.S. produce 307 million pounds of fish on per pound basis. Anywhere from 60 to 70% of the U.S. aquaculture is catfish production, says Rex Dunham, who works on genetically improvement of catfish at Auburn University in Alabama. Again, with the genetic improvement, the animals, when we went back to Genesis, it said, and they were so, and it was good. The Lord already created the animals to be good. They're in their perfection. They're fine. They don't need to be genetically enhanced. But here it is. Esau, Edom, they keep trying to, with their scientists, genetically modify things, and you're not supposed to do that. Leave them alone. They're fine. But catfish farming is also a great breeding ground for infections. From the time like I said earlier, if you would just stop spraying chemtrails, stop letting oil leaks happen, take the plastic out of the ocean, this would reduce the problems of the sea, instead of having to splice them. But it says, but catfish farming is also a great breeding ground for infections. From the time farmed fish are newly hatched to the time they are harvested, around 40% of the animals worldwide die from various diseases. It says, could the new genetic modification help? It says, the alligator gene, which Dunham's research turned up as a potential answer, codes for a protein called that word. The protein is antimicrobial, says Dunham. It's thought to help protect alligators from developing infections in the wounds they sustain during their aggressive fights with each other. Well, just leave the animals alone. If it sustains fights, I'm pretty sure that it's gonna heal and whatever. Like, geez, relax. It's got into a fight, trying to eat up something, got some cuts, bruises. Okay, leave it alone. It'll heal. Dunham wondered whether animals that have the gene artificially inserted into their genomes might be more resistant to diseases. You don't need to do that. Just leave it alone. Dunham and his colleagues also want to go a step further and ensure that the resulting transgenic fish couldn't reproduce. That's because genetically modified animals have the potential to wreak havoc in the wild should they escape from farms out competing their wild counterparts for food and habitat. So there is an adverse effect, but yet they're still trying to do it. How about you just leave it alone, lest they do escape, and then there's an adverse effect. But of course, they're going to continue to keep doing it. And I'm not going to read this whole article, because it's like I said, through the precepts, like it says in the scriptures, through thy precepts I get understanding. Through the precepts, you're going to understand that the Lord created the world to be a certain way. Going back to Genesis, the first chapter. Animals are in there. for lack of a better word, they're perfection. They're fine. They are good the way the Lord made them. You don't have to splice them. You don't have to make super cows or anything like that. Just leave them alone. They're fine. They are supposed to create after their own kind, after their own species. Cows, cows, sheep, sheep, goats, goats, alligators, alligators, catfish, catfish, and so forth. You do not need to splice them. If you would just follow the law, statutes, and commandments of the Bible, although we know you're not going to, but if you considered the Bible, and like I was giving certain examples, cut out the chemtrails, cut out the oil spills in the sea, cut out the plastic from the sea as well, and cut out all whatever other nonsense you're doing in the background that people don't know about, this would make it to where the wildlife wouldn't be beaching themselves and things like that. And cut out the man and man and woman and woman, and also that as well, although I know you're not going to do that, but if you cut that out as well, things would go back to the normal course of life and things would actually get better. But of course, they're not going to do so. Therefore, like it said in Isaiah 24, the earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Actually, yeah. Right. Isaiah chapter 24, verse 5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Oops. So this earth does not have much longer because of who's in rulership, because of these guys doing what they're doing. They're messing with the food, they're messing with how our mindset, all these things that you may think, is just fine in the earth, it does affect you and it will have a negative effect upon your life. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 22. It says, "And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." Matter of fact, let me get that in this Bible. But explaining that precept that unless the Lord shortens the days for us, no flesh will be saved, because at the course of the way these people are going, with all this genetic splicing and trying to change up the order that the Lord put upon the earth, this is going to have a negative effect upon everybody, not just for us, but for man in general. That's why I want to get this here. Where I'm reading from is the New Oxford Annotated Bible with Apocrypha, the Revised Standard Version. So this is Matthew chapter 24, verse 22, and it says, "If those days had not been shortened, no human beings would be saved, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened." So not just us Israelites, but even man itself, because of all this genetic splicing, all this changing, which trans means change, changing the course of life, changing the way that the Lord wanted life to be on this earth. But we have comfort knowing that the Lord is going to do this. Revelation 11 and 18, "And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come," right? Because Yahushua is coming back to destroy this system, to lay it down, as it's written of in that stone that's written about in Daniel the 2nd chapter. When you read about it, it hit the statue at the feet with the iron and clay, which represents now in this time NATO and the EU and America and all that. Yeah, he's coming here to destroy this Edomite power system. So that rock that represents the Messiah, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Yeah, so what you say, what you people in the churches, you like to say Jesus is all love. Well, yeah, Jesus coming to destroy this fucking place. But like I said, his proper name in the Hebrew is Yahushai. That is the true name of the Heavenly Father's Son. It's not Jesus. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath has come, right? The Heavenly Father is going to send his Son Yahushai, right, who the world calls Jesus Christ, to come back and destroy this place and to set up his kingdom upon the earth that's going to be follow the law, statutes, and commandments of the Bible, to follow the orders of the Bible, so that way life can be produced upon this earth. Because your genetic splicing and your super cows and you're trying to make man and woman and also combine man and machine is having a negative effect upon the earth, and the inhabitants are defiled because of it. People are growing weaker and weaker and dying because of this. And the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, which are Israelites, and them that fear thy name, which are also Israelites, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. Right, beginning with Esau Edom, because again, he's the one that it all starts with, because he's the one that gives the okay to, do these things upon earth, the genetic splicing, the GMOs, the chemtrails in the air, also the man and man, woman and woman, that nonsense. So again, and should us destroy them, which destroy the earth. This is taking the foundation of the earth out of course. This is destroying the minds of the people. This is having a negative effect. This is probably why, not to go on a long rant here, but this is probably why people are so aggressive with each other. People are, can't be calm because we don't know the extent of, what type of effects eating this type of food, having this type of mentality has on the brain. Just like how music, when you listen to that, that rap music, if you listen to it, you're not wicked for it, but, sometimes too much of it. And, sometimes I see Jake on the train, on the bus, and they be listening and they be going into it and you be looking like they ready to knock somebody the hell out. So it's the same thing. If that music could have that type of effect where a person looks like they're about to knock somebody out and all that, who knows what type of effect, GMO foods could have upon the brain, splicing different animals. Who knows? Well, we read in the article, if that animal gets loose and wild, it could wreak havoc. They even showed that in that movie, I'm not movie, that TV show, if you watched it, it came out a couple of years ago, Zoo. When they started genetically modifying certain animals, they had like these wolf-type dog animals that were huge, and they were aggressive as shit and destroying everything. It's a TV show called Zoo. It only has like 3 seasons. It got shut off for whatever reason. But it only had like 3 seasons, and when they genetically modified animals and things like that, these animals were aggressive and had a negative effect on the world. The world started becoming darker. The trees, were withered and all that. So, but pray that this video is edifying. I pray this edification went out. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.